Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, good evening. It's a pleasure to have you here. So very welcome to a webinar they're going to present this afternoon. So we are going to talk a little bit today about assets, also about this new feature that Atlassian is releasing soon to Jira Service Management, that is Assets Data Manager. And just talk a little bit about us and about who is Ecor. So we are Ecor, we are an Atlassian partner, we are a technology partner with Atlassian and other companies. We have been working with Atlassian for over 20 years. We have offices in the United States, Mexico, and also in Brazil. And again, we're going to talk a little bit about JSM, about assets, and about the new features. Since Atlassian has announced that they acquired Airtrack and are embedding the features of Airtrack into JSM. I know there's many people that are curious of how that's going to work, how data manager is going to work. We're going to talk a little bit about this today. And with me today here, I have Camila, is one of our consultants here. I also have the pleasure to have Sylvia with Atlassian and also Gasper with Atlassian. So in today's webinar, we're going to talk now, as I said, what to expect from the Assets Data Manager, which are the features they're going to be setting to JSM. We are also going to talk a little bit about asset management, what's the goal of asset management, in your JSM environment. And also by the end, Sylvia is going to show us a little bit about the tool. You're going to show a little demo about that. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand over to Camila.
Yes, sure. Thank you. And yeah, so here's our agenda. So I will be covering the modern asset management. So first of all, it's a pleasure for me to be here. And I will be talking about the asset management and how is this approach, this modern approach about this practice. So please, next slide. So here is a photograph of what I understand. It's a true enterprise service management that requires data from multiple domains. Like the teams are all involved: IT, HR, legal, customer service, finance. So everyone is connecting, and this approach is what we want to connect when we say about asset management and modern asset management. So please, next slide. And here is what assets surface through the all Atlassian platform. So we can connect assets with Jira Service Management, Confluence, Compass, Jira Software, Jira Line, and OpsGene. So we can surface data where you do work. So this is the modern asset management view. So here it's what I2 talk about when we talk about the effort that we need to collect that data and maintain configuration. You must balance with the value that information creates. So the data, it's important, and which data is important. How can we structure everything so the data can be accessed and what we needed from those platforms? So how can we connect teams, platform, and your process? So this asset is involved in everything.
And if I might say something about that, Camila, I think it's
Sure.
one of the most important parts on that, because, it's not just about having the data, just having information. It's more, okay, what are you going to do with all this data that you have that you might collect from manage different discovery tools, for example, SCCM, even, Jira Discovery. Okay, you have all the data, but what's the value that you're getting from all this data? I think is the most important thing, because how are you going to transform the data into the information, and what's the value that it's going to bring to you?
Sure. What is in the core? So the core is the value that you are going to connect everything. So this is very important. And also we are seeing AI features that is coming with all platform of Atlassian. So we can connect those things, and even with AIs to help us to guide us on this way. Thanks, Nando. And here we show some of the steps that assets, we can say that it's a success configuration of assets. So first of all, you define your values and the expectation about the data that you are collecting and you are structuring. So then you can design your model, including your data sources, and then you implement them iteratively. So this will be a good process on how you can success configure your assets. Next slide. So here it's then when you have settled your assets in the platform, so you can track what matters and get the values of everything. So you can connect assets to your work, and then the results of that, you can make better decisions with all data. For example, IT platforms. How we are using those IT assets? How we are using other assets that are involved into my team. So then you can have a better reports and a better view from the value that those things are getting from the assets. So this is the very action here. Yes, please, next slide. So that is the key to this vision of data quality. It's what we believe it's the best view of assets can bring to us. So here at the core, we optimize and help our customers to optimize your assets tools and your process together to empower your organization. So this is something that we do, enabling your teams to easily link your service requests and give teams flexibility and dynamic track all kinds of assets and CIs during your whole journey with us. So this is with Atlassian at the core. So given that, I will hand over to Gasper that is going into the Assets Data Manager. That is the new feature of Assets. So please, Gasper, with you.
Thank you, Vando, Camilla. Thanks for this intro. And yeah, what we're going to discuss right now is what you currently have in the system. What can you actually do with Jira Service Management as it is today? And I'm going to compare it with this new Data Asset Manager feature. What additional values does this Asset Manager feature will provide to our customers? Okay, there you go. Thank you, Sylvia. So this slide shows our current capabilities, what you can actually do right now with Jira Service Management regarding assets. So you may know, if you don't, I can tell you that Jira Service Management has a CMDB or an assets model within. And that CMDB is very flexible, very powerful. It not only supports IT assets, but all kind of corporate assets. So we have customers that have used JSM assets to track furniture, for example, or vehicles, or a fleet of ships or boats. Or so we have all shapes and sizes of customers using assets. We can track contracts as assets, or yeah, you name it, not only IT assets like computers and servers and software and whatnot. So we already have this repository within Jira Service Management. And nowadays you can populate that asset repository using 3 methods. So one, you can do like a manual capture of your assets, or you can import your assets. You can have like a spreadsheet with all your assets, or another system that you can use to export to a flat file and then import all of that to assets. Or you can use some of our marketplace apps to connect to different data sources and import the assets, okay? Or you can do discovery. So in the lower part of the slide, we can see 3 different main sources of discovery. One is our own Atlassian Assets Discovery. It's a discovery tool that you can download from our marketplace for free. It's a discovery tool that it's offered at no cost, 0 cost for our customers. That Asset Discovery uses like the standard IT discovery protocols like ICMP, SNMP, WMI, SSH, and it can discover a good number of IT devices. But you may already have discovery or configuration management tools like ServiceNow, LandSweeper, BigFix, SolarWinds, so many more. So if you have any of those, you can take the information from those tools and import it into assets. Or you can also have like technology-specific managers. For example, if you use VMware and you have the VMware Management Console, or if you use Microsoft and you have SCCM or Active Directory to track different computers or users or whatever, with those technology-specific managers, well, there you have information about assets, and you can also import that information into JSM assets. However, there is no easy way to reconcile the information from those different sources. So perhaps you have discovered one computer with BigFix and the same computer with SCCM and the same computer with assets discovery. So when you populate all of that information into JSM assets, it can be cumbersome to determine which is the right record. So with this new feature called Assets Data Manager, you can have an intermediate layer where you can import the data. And in that intermediate layer, you can cleanse the data, analyze duplicate items and do the duplication, do some data governance, analyze the data, and then upload the data to JSM assets. So the next slide, please, Sylvia. What you can do with this is make sure that you have a complete, current, and correct set of assets before uploading them to the CMDB. So you can simplify the data ingestion, deliver reliable data, and have a more optimal process. And we will touch on each of these 3 points. So on the next slide, to ingest data, what we can do with Assets Data Manager is to seamlessly connect to multiple systems. So the system will come out of the box with around 30 adapters. And we can see a list of the adapters that the tool has, that Airtrack had before being acquired by Atlassian, and that we will deliver as part of the system. So you can already connect with Flexera, with Snow, with Tenable, Dynatrace. So many discovery tools or vendor management tools will be out of the box in the system, okay? Then you will be able to automate those connections to import data from those sources and consolidate the data from all of those different sources in a single repository where you can analyze and stage data. So once you have the data in that staging layer, you can cleanse the data. So from the very ingestion of the data, you can configure filters and say, for example, if a computer does not fulfills this criteria, just ignore it. So you will have that data available, and you will be able to see which data is already verified and from which data sources it has been imported. Okay, then you can ensure consistency. You can determine what is the minimum criteria for your data to be considered as complete before importing it to the CMDB. And for example, if you don't have an antivirus installed on a computer, maybe you don't want that computer on your CMDB because it does not fulfill your requirements, your security requirements. Or if a server does not have the latest patch level, well, you don't want it yet on your CMDB because it needs to be standardized with your corporate requirements. So with all of this, you can determine which are the golden records. So you eliminate duplicates in this layer, and you make sure that you only insert that golden record that has already been cleansed and analyzed before uploading it to the CMDB. But you can do more with this. So you already know this information. You already know that you have a bunch of computers that don't have antivirus, or a bunch of servers that don't have the latest patch level. You may want to do something with that information. So you can do some actionable, you can act with those, that information that you have obtained with the system. So next slide, Sylvia, please. And what you can do is something like this. So if you already know that there's a bunch of computers without an antivirus, you may want to send that information to the security team to analyze why these computers are not compliant with the corporate policies. And you not only filter that information from getting into your CMDB, but you can also share that report, share that information with the relevant party so they can take action and fix that for you before you import that information in the CMDB. So in the system, you will have configurable dashboards where you can track all that information, you can see what's missing, you can send that information to the right party, and also you can import only the cleansed data in to your CMDB. So some of the use cases that you can do with Assets Data Manager is once you have a complete, current, and reliable CMDB, you can streamline incident and request management processes. If you troubleshoot an incident, you can go to the CMDB, try and find the impact of that incident, and it will be easier if your data is current. You can also enhance your request management process or your change management processes by analyzing the impact in the system with a reliable CMDB. Of course, this will help you a lot with your assets and configuration management practice. It will help you enhance your security with those reports where you can determine what are the minimum requirements for a system. You can run your compliance and governance reports. You can also help your inventory and procurement practices, do financial reporting, and also help your company forecast and planning. And maybe that's enough of theory. Why don't we take a look at the actual system? Sylvia.
All right, Gaspar, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear.
And can you see me?
Now we can see you.
Okay, perfect. So hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. I work at Atlassian as a technical product marketing, and I'm going to be happy to show you everything that they said that was good here, right, about Assets Data Manager. And assets is not a simple thing. I remember like even first times that I managed and worked with that, it was not that easy, right? But it's too complex, a lot of data. But before jumping on the demo, I just want to open this disclaimer here because this product or this feature has not been released yet. It's going to be released, and I want to make sure that, you know, everything that you see here might not be fully delivered at release. So just some functionality might remain in terms of discretion here at Atlassian. There is some subject to change. So anyway, let's jump in the demo and let's see how Data Manager works. I'm gonna change my screen here. Actually, let me go back here and click here and navigate to Assets Data Manager. So I'm gonna start here. Actually, let me start here. When I go to Assets, you're gonna have this option, Data Manager. And then when you click here in Data Manager, actually there is even like this configuration, and then you're gonna see Data Manager, and then you can enable or disable the functionality of Assets Data Manager in your instance. So basically, whenever you get like you release it with Data Manager, you have to go here, Data Manager, turn on, and then you have the access, and then you configure who can access Data Manager, and there you go, boom. You can access Data Manager from here or from that menu. So when I open the menu and Data Manager here under Assets, you can see here that I have several options, and then you start with a very nice guide here saying what to do and how to do it. So they basically have like how data manager works. So this gives you some very good tips in how to configure your environment. And remember that configuring assets data manager is one thing that you do, okay? And then once you do that configuration, don't need to be changing that configuration unless you change the configuration of some of your data sources or even the objects in assets, okay? But let's dive in and see the value first of assets data manager. So I get very excited when I get to show like the value of this solution. So one of the major values here is the reporting capabilities. So this dashboard is very rich. Whenever you access your data manager, you're gonna see this instance here, pretty much like clean, because you need to create and define what type of information you want to see, what type of information you want to bring here, and also what type of information you want to analyze. So I create this dashboard here based on data that I ingest, and I'm going to start showing this, and then later on, I'm going to show you how we do this, okay? So I have my dashboard here. I configure my dashboard in some way that I have like some overview screens. I can see data about security, asset and coverage, CMDB, finance and operations. You can configure everything here as you want. And then here in my dashboard, as you can see here, I have this executive area here. So I group some of my best type of, charts and put in this screen, like, an executive view. I just want to have some visibility in everything. So here I can see that I ingest data from different data sources like SCCM, AD, Active Directory, CMDB, that could be even information from assets coming here. I have up to, right? I can also have Qualys, Landsweeper, also I did some. So as you can see here, there is showing like how many assets I have ingest from each one of these items. And then I already can see how many Windows desktop came from each one of these repositories. And then as you can see here, I have some discrepancies right away. I have 12,000 in SCCM, I have 21,000 AD, and I have like 13,000. I mean, the numbers should be the same, and I have some data discrepancies that I need to work on. My total data that I ingest is 43,000 records. So that said, I mean, even like I have issues, computer issues, I have not mapped records. So all of these are null values. All of this shows me that something is wrong with my data and I need to fix this data so I can have reliable data to use on my service management or even other areas that I may use this data. So another value here is basically I can do the, counting and inventory, see how many computers by platform I have. So here I have some computers that are not mapped or there is like no value, right? So why is this happening? Maybe I need to check on this data. Now, one good thing about this is like, again, you can see the various types of charts that I can create. And then here I have the Venn diagram. This diagram is pretty cool because I can compare right away data from different data sources, so SCCM, antivirus, and Active Directory. So think about this. I have 21 records that are the same between my SCCM and my antivirus. That means like there are a lot of other computers here, devices that doesn't have antivirus. So I have an issue here. And then here, as you can see, is like I have just 1,000, from 3,000 records, just 1,000 are the records that are the same. So for sure, something is wrong. And then for these charts, I can navigate and drill down and see the data. I can also see what type of search was done before, right? And then as you can see here, like everything that is in my AD, Active Directory, antivirus, and SCCM, right? And then I do those comparisons of data. I can also drill down here and I'll see this all data in each one of these data sources, right? And which data came from each data source. This is so good also for auditing. So this type of information helps a lot when you're doing auditing. So, or basically compliance as well. Coming back here, I'm gonna go back and go back and go back in my chart as you are. As you can see, I drill down. I also have this other important type of chart that I'm saying now I can see the details of servers that are at risk, because these servers were found in my whole SCCM or tool. I can even look here. And then these ones here, that's more important. They are not found on my antivirus tools. So I have 1,300 records. That means like almost 40% of my servers are at risk. And this is so good. Security love that, because they can be proactive. You can import this data into assets, these schemas, and then from there you can have some automation and send messages to the respective departments. So another great benefits of Assets Data Manager. When you import data, look at this, you have all sorts of versions of operational systems, okay? So sometimes it's hard to digest this type of information. And we have a normalization, as Gaspar mentioned. You can normalize this data, and then you can create another column in the data and say, hey, by the way, everything that's doing those 11 dot something, put on 11 Windows 11, just 11 version. So here it's a lot more better view. I have like my Red Hat, my Windows 2008 3.1, my server 2012. So I can normalize this data in some way that's more like easy to analyze and also take some actions. As you can see here, I have 24% of computer data or device data that was brought, and then that's missing data as well. So again, how can you do a very good assessment in your change or even troubleshoot better if your data for assets not accurate? And that's what Assets Data Manager brings to the table. So here's another example. Like this, I compare my data from the SCCM with also from my finance Qualis, up to. And then this is some discrepancies between what I have in finance and what I have here. Again, some assets might be not like being in depreciation mode as it should be. Also, when we're doing planning, how much should we spend? Or even like if you're doing procurement, right? So all this information is helping other departments as well to analyze these discrepancies and fix the data. Not the data only, but also the issues that can cause some business outages, right? So another one is the desktops. Look at this, 51% of desktops that has not been updated with antivirus. I also can have some another analysis here with like servers that were not patched later. So all this type of information helps like security, procurement, finance, and not just service management to leverage this data and find value in how to prevent issues and optimize costs. So I like a lot this type of capability here. Now, let me show how that works then, and then we go back here in the dashboards. So the first aspect of the, let me just go back here in this quick presentation. I want to show you guys something here and then show how that works, and then go back to the demo and show live how that works here. So this is the data manager flow. So you might have external tools, right? So as I mentioned, assets from even like my compute schema from JSM. I can have like my SCCM. I might have some discovery tools and antiviral tools. And I mean, you can even have different types of data, like for example, HR data. You can have, as Gaspar mentioned, there's companies that manage like point of sales, POS, and even whiskey or trucks and cars. I mean, you can have different data coming here into Data Manager. So then the next step is you integrate. So you create a job here using adapters out of the box, and then you get the data, you run this job to get this data inside of Assets Data Manager, and then you have the raw data coming from each one of these type of repository. So then once you got the data inside of Data Manager, you have the opportunity to map this data into your main object, we are going to deliver about like 6 or 7 different types of objects out of the box. And then we put to grow also with the number of objects. In the future, you can also even create your objects. So you map each one of these data here into the object, and then you can do some cleansing, like let's say remove duplicates, remove data that has new in the primary key. There is several rules that you can apply to cleanse that data. And once you do that, you import. So this basically is like getting this data from different sources reconciled in one object. Again, you can have different types of data sources being reconciled in different types of objects. So once you cleaned your map, you clean and you import, now you have the complete, you have the current and correct data. Now you can create a search and import on the schemas. So it's basically getting the data from the data manager object and importing into the assets compute object, or it could be people or whatever other object you have. And with that too, you can also create searches and show do the dashboards that I show you. So this is how Data Manager is configured. Remember that once you do this configuration here, the step like 1, 2, and basically 4 or 3 and 4, you don't need to do that every day. You can even automate and create jobs to or scheduling to run this jobs automatically, like in like weekly or daily. You can define about that too. And also just process of mapping, cleans, and import, that can be all automated. So now let me show how that works in the tool. Okay, let's make sure that you can see how that is done here. I'm gonna just go back here and now go back to my data manager. And then I'm gonna show you how this is done. So let's go to here in the data manager menu. The first step is I'm gonna go to adapters, and then I'm gonna create the job so I can integrate the data from external sources into data manager. As you can see here, as soon as I go to the menu adapters, I can see here the create job with all these types of adapters. Remember, we might not have all the adapters tested by release, so that's why we have that disclaimer. But here you're seeing basically we have more than 30 types of adapters that came out of the box also with the acquisition of Airtrack. We're in process of testing all of those. You can also aggregate and bring data from multiple, say a group of flat files as well together. You can bring CSV flat files, text files. You can also bring the data from the assets from the schema here. So you can basically ingest your data in schemas and get that data back as well in Assets Data Manager to be reconciled. So you always have clean data in your schemas. SQL database, OGBC, you name it, very easy to connect. And then on top of that, you have all these other ones out of the box. Okay, so to create one of those, I'm going to show you. Basically, you can click here and you have several parameters to fill, and then you have the job create. What I will do as a matter of time, I'm going to, instead of creating one, I'm going to show all the jobs that I have created before. So as you can see here, I simulate all this creating some flat files, and I also have some that is integrated through API, like with the adapter using, for example, the Lens Weeper. I also brought data from JSM, Dynamo, right? So I have several types of jobs that I create previously. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna open the SCM as an example. So I put the name here of the job that I create. I also said where I want to include that data or reconcile that data, what type of source type I'm using, the file path, and then the column mappings that I have here. And then something that I want to call attention is when I'm ingesting data, I have the possibility to, let's say, I might have like some fields that is the date type of field, right? I'm bringing this as a string, but what I could do is I could bring this data as a date, right? And then also set up the format. So that's very important when we're ingesting the data. We need to make sure that this controls, or I mean, I would say these mappings are done correctly, and also the type that you want the data to be ingested is set at ingestion. Another aspect that I want to show you here is the transformation functions. So if you haven't done that, or you need to transform some of the data, we also have these capabilities we call like transformation rules. So basically you can, transform functions that helps you to, like, let's say, replace something with no, or discover locations, remove like you write substring, like, you know, if you want to just to transform, not modify the data, but transform, like even, for example, here, convert a string to date. So let's say you have a field that you brought before that was a string, and then you want to go back and change to a date time. So you can do that here too, okay? And then once you do that, you save, and then you go and you're ready to run the job. So to execute the job, I'm not going to show you now, but then you will execute that job with a client adapter that is provided to you through the marketplace, and you run that through the terminal. So it's a command line that you run and execute your job. Once you execute your job, there is two things. You can see here all the recent jobs that I run. Oh, by the way, let me go back here. I want to show one more thing. This is another example of another type of API LansWeeper configuration adapter. So I create this job, connect to LansWeeper. The data is going to the compute object class, my data source. Here I could even use like discovery tools. Is an API source, and then I have my token, and that's it. Again, I have my transformation functions here, right? I save it. That's all that I need. Very easy to create a job for an API, right? Integration. So that said, let's go back here. Once I run my job, I have all these types of execution that I have done before. When I see this, it's because didn't run, has some issues. When I have this okay, the data run okay, I got my data in. I can see all my raw data here, right? I can also do some searches and filtering this data. And remember, this is the data coming from a data source that I just ingested inside of Data Manager, okay? So that's the first step that I show in that particular, let me just go here. In this connection here, external tools, I create my job, I run the job, and I can transform the job. That's the step number one. So now let's go to step number two, okay? And then also here, I can see all the job execution history, how many times I run every job. So when you are doing this automatically, you can also come here and see quickly, like what are the time frames that was executed and if everything was successful, okay? So now let's go back here to the menu called Data Manager, okay? And then going back to the menu, Data Manager, I have the option cleanse and import. So once I got that data inside of my Assets Data Manager, I can come here and my data is going to be here. So the SCCM. You can see here, the data that I brought up was right here. And then I'm going to start my process of mapping, cleansing the data, and reconciling the data. So the first one is cleansing rules. So you can automatically have the system clean your data using some cleansing rules. So if you see here, I have several out-of-the-box rules, like exclude, like ended with a string in particular way, or even exclude null data, or empty primary key, or remove like duplicates. So I have a couple of ones that I select here before. I can always configure, change the order. So here in this case, select two, remove my null and empty primary keys, and also remove the primary keys that are duplicates. And I can force the clean here. I can also see what data was cleaned before, even doing the reconciliation. So once I do my cleansing, I also need to do actually my mapping. So I'm gonna go to mapping here and then say, so what fields that I ingest from my, like I would say, staging data, right, is gonna, or transform data, connect to the object. So here you're saying computer name, it goes to my computer name, domain. And whenever you go to this mapping screen, the system already kind of suggests to you when they find the same name. So you don't need to basically map every single one. At here, I can also create new fields right away. So that's cool because, you don't need even to create all the fields in your object initially. What you can do is just basically create as you go. But very good news is we are going to deliver some, as I mentioned, 6 or 7 types of objects out of the box with the fields pre-configured. So we are providing you with best practice for the objects and which data you should start when you're doing assets, okay? So here I did the mapping. I did the apply the cleansing. I defined the cleansing rules, and my next step now is going to be cleanse. So I'm going to clean the data. So what I do is I select the file that I want to clean the data, and then I just click start, and that's where I do the execution. I did this execution before. As you can see here, they clean up here some records. Actually, the first one didn't find anyone, but the second one was like minus 59 records that was basically duplicated. So that's, again, a great thing to be done because you're removing garbage or even data that's not even useful for you when you are doing your asset management. So automatically you can already clean a little bit more the data. And then the next step is also going here. And now the call import, but this import is pretty much a reconciliation of this data. So getting this SCM data into my final object, Assets Data Manager object. As you can see here, there is like some initiation, some validation, the import preparation. It goes with copy this data in my object, align the primary keys. And the most important here is like compute dictionaries. So this is when the normalization occurs. You configure the normalization before, saying like which tables, with data you want to basically normalize. With compute dictionaries, we also going to provide some compute dictionaries out of the box, but you can create your own as well. And then this is execute at this point. And this is execute with all the data that's being ingested by all the, I would say, sources. So the interesting part here is like if I want to reconcile or import, if I want to clean or reconcile all the data at the same time, I can just click here and click in the import selection. And as you can see here, they copy data from different data sources into this object, do the reconciliation, right? Apply the compute objects. And then actually here, I select even more objects. I select the people object, and I select also the software object because I select everything. So it's doing all the data in my compute and people and software objects at the same time. And again, these processes can be also scheduled and automate, so you don't need to do manually as I'm showing here. So as I mentioned here, let's go back to this picture here. I did create my job, I run the job, I transform the data, I map, I cleanse, and I import. So the next step that I'm going to show you is basically from now I can go to analysis. And analysis is a very, very good, I would say, an easy way to filter your data so you can create some dashboards, some charts, or you can export that data or even get that data into Data Manager. Get this data into schemas on assets. So as you can see here, when I click analysis, you see all my objects out of the box. So I have the compute, network, people, peripheral, software, and user. So anything that maps with these types of objects and this basically structure, definitely you can use and bring data in here. In the future, you're going to be also expanding this object class and giving you a possibility to also create your own objects, okay? So that said, I'm gonna click here in my compute. So I'm in analysis, I'm gonna filter this data, I'm gonna create some kind of, analysis and do some analysis. I can click here, here's all the data that was ingested from all these data sources, 43,000. And then a very simple one that I showed you before is like, I want to see all my data from SCCM, and I want to see all the data that is not in my antivirus. Very simple, and search. So now what you guys are seeing here is basically everything that I have in my SCCM that doesn't have antivirus. So those are the items that I might have to, send to security and make sure that there's patched or add antivirus and are okay, are in compliance. I can also add some other types of search, like I can say everything that is platform, right? My platform, and this field was created with normalization, and I can say everything that's a server, okay, or contain a server. So I can do all types of search that I want. I can save as a new search, and then this new search is basically used to create my charts on the dashboards. Or this search is also used to import the data into schemas. So now that I did this, I'm going to show you also that I can see this data as a chart right here. I can select my attributes, like for example, let's get by platform, as I mentioned to you, and that's one. And then if I want to also get OS, right? So OS version, there you go. I have like a nice donut type of chart that shows me like in this like Windows desktop, what are the operational systems that I have, and then with the server, the same thing. And I also have all these counts here. Again, I can even drill down, see the data back, etc. So very flexible. No SQL knowledge here, and you can do tons of types of searches with several parameters. The system is very flexible and give you the capability to analyze the data and have complete, current and correct data for your assets. So now that I show you this, I'm going to show the dashboard again, going back to where we start. And then here is where I can basically edit, create my chart. This is an example. And using my object class, I can define what type of chart I want. And then here is basically what search I create before and how I want to display. So pretty easy. You don't need to like have any special knowledge to create these dashboards or this search. So Assets Data Manager, beyond integrating the data, brings a ton of good visibility and flexibility in those aspects for you. So now the question is, how do I get my data in schemas? So I did a couple of examples here. So going back to my schemas, you can see here, that's the normal screen or the regular screen for the assets. What I can do now here, I'm going to just show one of those. I did my compute import before, and I did also my, so you can see that my compute, I did some import, but one that I want to show you that's kind of cool is the people too that I also brought up, right? And then I have all the attributes, and then you can see like all my departments, roles, and people. So brought all the details, right, that I have there. And then how do I do that? It's pretty simple. I'm gonna go back here, and then go back to my configuration. And then you have here your configuration for assets. I'm gonna go to Data Manager. Actually, let me just go back here and then go here, configuration, that's where I should go, and then import. And then here is the configuration that I did for this import. And then if I want to create a new import, so where you used to have like the Discover import, JSM import, CSV, now we have Data Manager import. And then just a beta version, you can click here, right, and next, put a name here. So I'm gonna just put DM data, okay, and create my import. And then as you can see here, it's not configured, but I can configure. And then I can select here quickly and simply one of the searches that I have there, right? So all my SCM data and AD data, I can select, save my configuration, and run. So when I run that, all that data from that particular search that I saved before comes to my assets, schemas in assets. So that said, I think that was a good overview in what we have. I'm gonna go back here to the presentation, and I'm gonna just put in the slide mode. A quick review here. We went through define the resources, doing the integration, creating the jobs, run the jobs, transform, We also went through the cleanse and reconciliation. I showed the mapping, cleanse, and import. We also create search, and I show you the assets import. And the last one, I show also how to create search in the dashboards and the value. So with that, I want to hand back to Vandal or Camila.
It's good to meet me. Thank you so much, Silva. Thank you for the amazing demo. It was really good to see that. And just to, complement a little bit on the top of that, we as Atlassian partners, we were able to, we have been using for some time a data manager on the early access program. And on the first times that I saw, the features and, how you can get all the data from many other platforms, how you can cleanse the data, and as we call it, and how you can create a golden record for all the information that you have in your assets. It's, amazing. It just blew my mind, with this approach that Atlassian has of coexisting with other tools. It's out of this world, I think it's really good and quite valuable. And we just like, of course, to offer you, your attendees with a special offer here for you who participated. We're going to go through the Q&A soon, but I just would like to bring this. So we would like to offer you something, of course, so we here at eCorp, we work with our customers, from the strategy throughout the execution, throughout the enablement until the durability, what we call the seed approach. And the first step, of this strategy, how can create a strategy, we like to start with an assessment to understand, how you're working, how is our environment working, to assess our environment, your ways of working. If we can go to the next slide, please, Sylvia. So, this assessment is a holistic approach to understand, to get you clear insights on how your environment set up, how your processes are interacting with your setup, and how we can help you to design and to create this roadmap for success. Not just, by the tool, but also offering the best practice, tailoring the recommendations to you, because we understand that each company has different process, each company has different approaches. So, on the strategy phase, we like to make this initial kickoff, make this maturity assessment. And again, we start with this assessment, not just of the tool, but of the people, the process, and the tool. Essentially, we are assessing your ways of working, because again, every company has its own way of working. So we'll review how your current solution is configured. We're going to assess your technical solution. You, of course, are going to learn from you and for our leaders. And we are, alongside with your team, we are going to define which are the measures and goals, they're desired from the tooling solution. And after we do that, with that in mind, after learning with you how your current working, how your tool configured, we're creating, we're crafting a unique solution for your needs according to what you need. You're going to define the solution alongside with your team to define, based on the assessment and also following the best practice. If you can go to the next slide, please, Sylvia.
And also, Wanda, how this feature can be useful for our customers. So fits better for your enterprise and things like this. So this would be very important also.
Absolutely. And throughout this diagnosis, throughout this assessment, you're going to help to, identify which are the workflows, integrations, and customizations that can help you with define better automation. We have many customers that we approach them and they have automations in place, but how we can leverage better the automation, how we can help them to improve those automations, also to streamline the process, how we can improve the results to, help the customers to read the business need, and also, of course, maximize this return on the investment they're doing in the tool. So, we are here to help you to transform your workplace with this strategic approach to enhance your productivity. And, for the attendees of the webinar, we have this special offer, it's limited time offer just for you, for the people who attended the webinar. We are offering that for $4,000 as assessment. If you're interested in that, make sure you can say on the chat, because we have our marketing team, they are on the chat, so they can reach out to you and we can, reach out to you as soon as possible so we can start with this approach. With that in mind, I think we now can go to the Q&A session. We have received lots, many questions here on the chat. We are going to cover a few of them. I don't think we have time to cover all of them. But no, one of the questions that we got more than once, I like to address this one. I'm not sure if Gaspar Silva is going to address that, but I would like one of you to address that. Is asking is there going to be an AWS or GCP connectors?
Yeah, I can take that one. So it won't be available. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So it won't be available out of the box at the release time, but we are working on. So the other options that you can do, and I just talked to a customer today that he's in EAP, and he did that. He brought the data from AWS. You could use the CSV file, a flat file, or you can use also OGBC connector, depending on how you're getting the data. So they did a test with AWS data as a CSV, so they got export there and then import in Assets Data Manager. But in the future, we are planning to have definitely the adapter, but we do have adapters for the Azure.
Awesome. And I think, connecting to that question, you said some of those are not going to be available out of the box. When is journal available? When's going to be the release date? We also have one question that, do you already have, when's going to be the release date for the feature?
Oh, the release date for the Assets Data Manager.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So yeah, so as I have a disclaimer there, things can change, okay? But I can tell that we are planning to do an open beta very soon. So I would say in a month from now, you should expect to be enabled by this feature. Let's say between a month from now and the November timeframe, we are starting to open beta for almost everyone. So stay tuned, and we are going to be communicate with you through the community and other sources as well.
Awesome. Thank
That's
you so
very good news. But again, disclaimer, this can change.
Yeah.
And because the open beta, right? Remember, not everything that I show you here before might be there because it's still a beta version, but at least you can start playing with the tool.
Okay, thank you so much, Silvia. Another question that I'm seeing here we have received more than once is this going to be native to JSM assets? Is this an app? Is something that the customers will have to purchase separately? How is going to be the approach for Data Manager?
Oh yeah, so whoever has assets for enterprise and premium levels, they get Assets Data Manager included. So there's no license or additional cost for Assets Data Manager.
That's awesome. Let me see other questions that I have here. Give me just 1 second.
I saw many questions regarding the data model, Sylvia. Could you please talk a little bit about, we have different data sources and there's a data model. You showed a little bit about how to import, but is the definition of the data model already included with the connectors? Could you elaborate a bit more on that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. That comes out of the box as basically the objects that we are going to deliver with Assets Data Manager. And I'm going to even change here my screen for a second because I think that's good to clarify a little bit. So if I go back here, my Data Manager analysis, as you can see here, I have this type of objects that are coming out of the box. And if I go to settings, you see, I didn't went through these options here, but you have several informations to be configured. One of those is basically the attributes and attributes mapping. So if I want to see my object class compute, right, I'm gonna do search here. And then you can see that I basically have all these fields that's gonna come already out of the box. And I can define primary key, secondary key, normal. So you can configure and basically change whatever you need here. But of course, something that I'm gonna tell you here is it is best, sorry, stop sharing. It is best for you if you want to, we're gonna go back here. It's best for you to use the out of the box because then we are gonna be delivering additional capabilities out of the box. So the idea is migration and the new features, etc. As much as used out of the box, better for you. But on the other hand, if you have a need to do some additional configurations, that's fine. Go ahead and you can create whatever you want. It's very flexible. Does that answer the question, Gaspar?
I think it does. Thank you. And maybe I saw another one about data center. I answered it on the chat, but it's important to tell people that right now this is going to be available in the cloud. We don't have it in the roadmap for data center yet. Am I right, Sylvia?
Yeah, we are not planning to deliver in data center, period. There is no, there's just going to be cloud. And again, by the end of the day, if you don't want to, if you do really want to use Assets Data Manager, you can just maybe have some licenses in the cloud, do what you need and export the data and get the data on data center, but the ideal is like use cloud. But you can still do it, right, on the cloud environment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sylvia.
And if you're still on data center, you need help to migrating to the cloud, feel free to reach out to us. We definitely can help you with that. We have made several migrations for our customers. We can definitely help, if that is your pain point in the migration, we definitely can help you with that. I think we're at the top of the hour. So once more, I'd like, to thank you so much, everyone who joined us, who participated, who posted questions on the chat. Just remembering, if you're interested in this special offer for the assessment, reach out to us. Make sure it's a time limited. So, hurry to reach out to us so we can help you with that. And of course, I would like to thank you, Camila, that's here with me, also Gaspar and Sylvia for helping us, and also to thank Atlassian, for being such a long-lived partner for this partnership for, a long time that have been, and also for granting this opportunity to being one of the few chosen to participate on the AP, to been working not just on the data manager, but other early access programs, and then we can help better customers. With that in mind, once more, thank you so much. It was good to have you here, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.